Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. It's 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time here in Brisbane, coming to you with another Facebook Live. My name is Audra Starkey. I am the founder of the Healthy Shift Worker, an organisation that I developed a few years ago. And so I'm coming in to do another round of training for everyone. So for those of you who are new to me or new to this group, please first and foremost welcome. It's always nice to see some new faces pop in every now and then, and of course it's always great to see those that are regulars here in the group as well. But if you are catching this on the live, please feel free just to type in one below so that I know that you're there. I can't always see everyone's comments, so I do apologise in advance, but I do my best to see them when I can. And if you're catching this on the replay, even better too, just nominate number 2 just below, and then I know that you're or who's coming in to watch and when. It kind of gives me a bit of an idea of what's going on there. So anyway, as I said, my name's Audra Starkey. I am a clinically trained nutritionist, but I'm also a shift work veteran. I've worked shift work myself for 2 decades, and I'm also an accredited trainer. So my passion really does come from the education kind of perspective. I feel that for shift workers, we are very lacking the health and education that we need, which is why I kind of do what I do. And I'm wanting to kind of get that information out there, because we know when we kind of know more, we tend to do more when we've got that knowledge behind us, which is, as I said, it's severely lacking in most workplaces these days. So anyway, let's launch into today's topic, because that is why you have logged on. Why place so much focus on sleep? Why have I even brought this topic up? Well, I think when we know that when we're shift workers, we can certainly appreciate that our sleep tends to be depleted and disrupted, at certain times. That's definitely a factor. But why should we even care about sleep? Again, I'm going to be looking at my notes, guys, because I've just got a lot of content that I wanted to share with you, and I just want to make sure that I am covering everything. So why should we even care about it? Because I'll be honest, there is just so much information out there when it comes to the health and well-being space, and it's all focused primarily around nutrition and exercise, and both of those things are great and they're both very relevant. However, sleep is kind of really up there, even more important on the scale of well-being, because we have the air that we breathe. We know that we can't last long if we don't have oxygen. And then we need water, obviously, as well. We can't survive much without water. But then also sleep really is up there, is pretty much up importance with the air and the water that we breathe as well. And then really it should be things like nutrition and exercise and so forth. And I'll share my reasons for that shortly. But when we don't eat well, we feel like crap. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We do, right? When we don't eat the best food, feel a little bit guilty afterwards, but we kind of don't feel fantastic. But when we don't sleep well, we can barely function. So I want you to really appreciate the distinct differences between that. When we don't eat well, we feel like crap, or we don't feel that great. But when we don't sleep well, we can barely function. So that's kind of a bit of a clue as to why we need to be putting more of a focus on it, and to make it more of a priority. Interestingly, here in Australia, it's super exciting. A few months ago, the Australian government launched an inquiry into sleep health awareness in Australia. So, and it is a world first. And with the recommendations put forward, they have nominated, thankfully, sections with shift workers, because we know it's just a very undiscussed topic, and yet its importance on our health and well-being is enormous. And we really are, I guess, either we're not aware of it or we're choosing not to recognize it, and it's having devastating effects on our health and well-being. Now, even the Guinness World Book of Records, we've all heard of the Guinness World Book of Records, and they're renowned for doing some pretty crazy stuff. Even the Guinness World Records now are no longer recognizing any attempts to break the sleep deprivation record. Like, they are refusing to acknowledge anybody that even tries to do it, because of the more and more information coming out there of the devastating effects that it has on our health. And that, again, that gives us a clue, because they do ridiculous, crazy stuff, like jumping out of capsules that are thrown into space at thousands of kilometers, and it's just mind-boggling that they'll do that, yet they won't acknowledge anyone now that tries to break the records when it comes to into sleep deprivation. And again, so that's a big clue. At the end of the day, absolutely everything comes back to sleep. Everything. And how I want to explain that is, if you were to or imagine that there is a table in front of you, and each leg of that table represented sleep. Okay, so you got 4 legs of the table, and each of those legs of the table represent sleep. And then if we were to put things onto that table, like nutrition, exercise, stress, our relationships, and so forth, so we're just resting that on top of the table. But if I was to come along and yank out one of the legs of that table which represented sleep, everything on that table is going to fall off and go for a slide, basically. So sleep forms the foundation for everything. Now let's refer to nutrition. We know when we haven't had enough sleep, we don't tend to make the best, healthiest of food choices. It's just kind of what it is. We're more likely to reach for the quickest and easiest option because we're caught in this kind of fatigue state. But if we sleep more, we're more likely to make better choices. When we don't sleep well, it affects our exercise. We lose our mojo to be wanting to do any exercise or get up and move. One most notably, and I try and talk about this a lot, is that it really affects our relationships. And it's shown in the research, but again, probably don't need to even know about the research to appreciate what I'm trying to say, is that when we haven't had sufficient sleep, our emotional empathy declines, meaning we're more likely to say and do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do had we had enough sleep. Now, this occasionally is no big deal, but over the long run can have absolutely devastating effects on our relationships, both personally and even professionally as well. So I think we need to be super conscious of that. Like, it's like coming back after a night shift and wanting to maybe potentially get into an argument with someone. Just make sure you get some sleep first, and then before you engage. And because the rate of divorces and marital breakdowns and everything amongst the shift working population is high, due to many reasons, of course. But I think this is something to be mindful of. It is that sleep. It just affects us so much. Stress is also another big one. We know that if we can't, our resilience to stress, we can't cope as well with stress if we haven't had enough sleep. And I know a lot of shift working occupations, kind of throw it out there, ambulance, nurses, doctors, police, firemen and women, etc. You guys are all in very, very high stress jobs. So making sure that we've had enough sufficient sleep is really going to set the foundation to be able to function and do that job well. But another one that I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit more briefly now, or in more detail, should I say, is that it affects our body's ability to heal. Quite simply, sleep, our immune system is reliant on our body getting enough sleep. So our immune system protects our health. Guys, I just want to put it out there. Our immune system protects our health and well-being, and sleep and our immune system is so very much related between the two. Now, I'll just refer to my notes here that I've got. Quite simply, sleep deprivation weakens our immune system, preventing it from it functioning as it should. Even Professor Russell Foster, who has actually done a TED talk, which is interesting, on why do we sleep. It describes how tired people tend to have higher rates of overall infection. So it's kind of, setting us up for failure, really, by not having enough sleep. It's kind of why I don't understand why more workplaces don't focus on making sure that their staff can get sufficient rest. But that's probably for another topic. But there are various mechanisms for this. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation reduces immunity cells called T cells, along with increasing inflammatory cells in our body called cytokines. It essentially alters the body's immune response and increases pro-inflammatory markers such as tumoral necrosis factor alpha or TFNA, interleukin 10 and C-reactive protein. Okay, this is kind of what's happening if we're not getting enough sleep. Clinical trials have illustrated that without sufficient sleep, infection-fighting antibodies and cells become depleted and are no longer able to protect you from infection. I want to read that again. Without sufficient sleep, this is from clinical trials. Oh, hi Nick, how you going? How you going? Where are you from? Are you Australia? Do you want to pop down where you're from? I'm quite interested to see where everyone's from. Thank you for joining me, by the way. I want to read that again. So clinical trials have illustrated that without sufficient sleep, infection-fighting antibodies and cells become depleted and are no longer able to protect you from infection. Okay, if that's not your biggest wake-up call, pardon the pun, of why we need to be just doing whatever we can to protect our sleep. Quite simply, our entire immune system is dependent on sleep to keep you well. I'm going to repeat that again. Quite simply, your entire immune system is dependent on sleep to keep you well. Oh, you're down in Melbourne. Oh, very good. I think I've got a few followers down there. It's freezing down there. You must be freezing. So I just want to really highlight this. Why should we care about our sleep? Because I think a lot of us aren't really, even though we've got this disruptive kind of sleep disruptive lifestyle, we're kind of also doing a bit of self-sabotaging stuff that's making it worse. But your immune system, as one of, I've already spoken about a few things, is such a hugely important area that's going to actually protect your health. Oh, hi Cassie, thanks for joining me. Hi, I wish I could continue to watch, but time for shift work to interrupt sleep. Sure, thank you so much anyway for joining me, Cassie, no problem. Just come and jump back on when you're ready, that's fine, no problem. So immune system, just think sleep, immune system, it protects us. It's so incredibly important. So there's quite simply not one area of your life that is not affected by lack of sleep. There is not one area of your life that is not affected by lack of sleep. It affects everything and everyone around us. Now, you might be sitting there watching and listening going, I'm fine, I can quite easily run on 3 to 4 hours sleep, no problem. And you know what, I do hear that a bit, and it kind of upsets me a little bit when I hear even people kind of boasting about how little sleep that they've had or that they're getting. And I know that people aren't intentionally boasting about it like it's in a bad situation, but then there are others that are. But again, it's just such an integral foundation of our health and well-being that we've got to find ways to make it better, both quality and quantity. So you might be thinking that, yes, I'm fine. I can quite easily run on 3 to 4 hours sleep, no problem all the time. Well, there is a bit of research out there that does indicate, and it's about 1% of the population, of the global population. So I doubt that it would be anybody watching this, whether you're catching me on the live or catching me afterwards, I doubt it would apply to anyone. These particular people do hold what's called a DEC2 gene, and the research has shown that their brains are able to undergo a certain brainwashing process via a lymphatic system in the brain that enables their brain to be able to clear out a lot of the toxic waste products that build up over the time that they're awake. But it's only a very small percentage of the population, as I said, and it's probably unlikely anybody that is here. And then you'll flip over to another different sleep researcher, a gentleman by the name of Professor Matthew Walker, who has written a phenomenal book called Why We Sleep. Highly recommend everyone read it. It's a profound book. But according to Matthew, who is a neuroscientist and sleep researcher for 20 years, the number of people who can survive on 6 hours sleep without showing any impairment is zero. Zero. So like none. That's not 10%, 20%, that's none. So the number of people who can survive on 6 hours sleep without showing any impairment is zero. Okay, so something to kind of keep in mind. Even research that was here in Australia actually showed that after many of you probably heard of this too, after 17 to 19 hours without sleep, performance was equivalent or worse to a blood alcohol reading of 0.05%. So if you haven't slept for 17 to 19 hours, you are effectively drunk. So please keep that in mind the next time that you have to jump in your car to go home. And I know that there are people here that do some long hours, and maybe every now and then might end up having to work some double shifts, and doing that occasionally is no big deal. Like, I think we've all faced that situation, but doing it continuously, we can't put our head in the sand and ignore that it's not affecting our health. And the fact that it is, that amount of lack of sleep is equivalent to drug alcohol 0.05, where we're actually legally drunk, is quite profound, and it's something that we need to be raising more of an awareness on to get this better sleep happening. So how can we improve our sleep and well-being when we work shift work? I want to give you guys three kind of just key takeaways from this live, just to kind of set you up to get you in this mindset of improving your sleep, because as I've just discussed, sleep affects everything, and most notably our immune system, which is a protector of our health. So number one, how can we improve it? Well, before I went live, I did actually put a screenshot of a slide up there, which I'm not sure if anybody has had a chance to, but it is a question that I put forward, is where does sleep sit on your list of priorities? That is a question that you need to be really asking yourself. Face in the mirror, do an honest assessment, faced up. Nix, you said trying to get sleep before your first night is hard. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that, Nick, totally. But you've got to find your way. I'm not saying it's easy, but you've definitely got to find your way to make sure that you sleep up that sleep debt, or top up that sleep debt before going into a night shift. That's got to be a non-negotiable situation, and you definitely feel it. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So yeah, if you haven't gone in for, as Nick said, if you haven't actually gone in had any sleep before going into your first night shift, that's going to really snowball quite quickly, and it's very hard to kind of catch up after that. So making sure that you do have that sleep first before you go in is huge, and you've just got to find your way of doing it. Unschedule any appointments, just don't commit to anything at that part of the roster, and just bunker down in your bedroom in darkness, and do what you've got to do. But just getting back to, where does sleep sit on your list of priorities? So on the left hand side, I put work. Number one is work. Number two is nutrition, which is great. Number three is exercise, which is great. And then poor little sleep often gets pushed down to number four on the bottom, when really it needs to be more on the right hand side, where we need to be putting sleep at the top, then nutrition, then exercise, and then work. Now you might be thinking, so I'll say that again, this is how we should have it: sleep first, then nutrition, then exercise, and then work. So why have I put, as a nutritionist, sleep above nutrition? Okay, well, I already kind of ran through just how incredibly important it is on so many levels, particularly our immune system. But if we were to go without eating for 2 to 3 days, for an example, so if we didn't eat for 2 or 3 days, and I'm not suggesting anyone does that, and it's not some fancy new diet for 2019, so please don't go out there and do it. But if you weren't to eat for 2 to 3 days, after that time frame, no doubt you would probably lose a bit of muscle mass, a bit of weight, you'd be feeling tired and lethargic. But you know what? Generally speaking, you're going to be okay. But if you went without sleep for 2 to 3 days, you would barely be able to function, and you would begin to hallucinate. Okay, so again, it gives us a big clue. Mother Nature has given us a big clue of just how incredibly important sleep is. So I want you to all, give yourself an honest assessment of where you are putting sleep in your list of priorities, because it's really easy to just blame shift work. for your lack of sleep. But I've found over the years from working with my clients and even my own behaviour, as well, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing on our own that's just making it worse. So number 2, Nick's also said having a little nana nap at work helps through on you. Oh, if you can do that, yeah. If you're able to do that, I'm all for having nana naps at work. Yeah, that's great. What do you do, Nick, out of interest? I'm quite curious. So number 2, so prioritising it, number 1. Number 2 is, and this is not going to apply to everyone because it's going to depend on your job, what it is that you work and everything, but ditch the minimum turnarounds. It blows me away that here in Australia, there are organisations that allow 8-hour turnarounds, meaning that turnaround is by the time you finish and then you come back 8 hours later. Now, 8-hour turnaround is not enough time for us to get to sleep, considering, the Sleep Organisation says we should be getting somewhere between 7 and 9 hours sleep. So how does 8-hour turnaround, how is that going to kind of happen by the time we add in commute time, winding down and so forth? It's just not going to happen. Sleep is a process and it takes time to wind down. Now, I know that also there are some, I think it's in the nursing sector actually that you might have a 10-hour turnaround. That's what it's supposed to is your 10 hours, but you can sign off to do an 8-hour turnaround. And look, I appreciate that people will do that occasionally if you've got things on, but if you are voluntarily choosing to do 8 hours, I just say, please don't do that. You are just shortchanging your opportunity to get enough sleep. And again, that's a bit of a self-sabotaging behaviour, because if you don't have to do it, then don't do it. And I would like to see here in Australia, because I know in parts of Europe and even I think Canada, I'm hearing from people that 10 and 11 hours is their minimum legal requirement. For me, I think 12 hours would be better, but in other countries around the world, they have a minimum 10 to 11 hours turnaround. Actually, for those of you watching this, if you can type in whether you're watching me live or even after the replay, I'd love to know where you are in the world and what is your minimum turnaround in your workplace, because that's it's a fascinating topic. What I don't understand is that our 9 to 5 shift working cousins, as I like to call them, those who work 9 to 5, they get 15 hours between when they finish and when they come back again. So that's even if they work through till 6 p.m. They don't have to come back to work till 15 hours later. So why, we would never ask somebody that works 9 to 5 to come back to work at 2 a.m. It just wouldn't happen. It just would not happen. So why on earth are we expecting people who are at the most vulnerable of lack of sleep, those that are already doing disrupted kind of rosters, why are we asking them to halve what a 9 to 5 would normally get opportunity to rest? It just does my head in. Amy, hi Amy, thanks for joining me. I'm in Rockhampton. We have an 8-hour turnaround. Yeah, so that's rostered. Do you mind? Yeah, is that actually rostered, Amy? And what is it you do? You don't have to tell me specifically where you work or anything, but what sort of industry is it that you do? Because it just, like I said, we would never be asking 9 to 5 people to come back at 2 a.m. They would just roll their eyes and go, what, you're crazy. Yet we expect people that work a 24-hour rotation that are already just having this disrupted sleep to do it. It's nuts. It's crazy. So where possible, just don't do those 8 hours. If you can swap out of them and give yourself more opportunity, then that's your self-preservation on your sleep. Our sleep is already disrupted enough from the shift times. Your body needs time or sufficient time between shifts to recover. Remember, your immune system, the very system that is protecting your health, needs sleep. And we all want to be healthy, right? Amy says we're in a hospital, and yes, that is too. I didn't quite catch that. We are in a hospital, and yes, that is too. Oh, as in that's rostered? I don't know how that got passed in Parliament or occupational health and safety regulations, 8 hours. It's just absurd, my personal opinion, because you're not giving our bodies time, sufficient time to sleep on an already body that is struggling to cope. So that's number one, again, I'm just going to recap, is to prioritize your sleep. A lot of us aren't doing that. Number 2 is ditch those minimum turnarounds when you can. Again, I know this is not all going to be applicable to everyone watching this right now, and it's going to depend on what it is that you do. But if you have them on your roster, or if you're asked to be doing an 8-hour turnaround, please, I can't make you do this. I've just got your back. I'm just trying to help you to preserve your health. Amy says, yes, that is rostered. I don't do that as I work part-time with a 1-year-old, but when it is full-time, okay, I can't quite see completely all of it, but I'm assuming that maybe if it's full-time, it's kind of expected. I'll have a read of that afterwards, Amy. Yeah, gosh, if I could change your roster, believe you me, I would most definitely be doing that. So number 3, in order to be able to improve our sleep, is that we actually have to eat better, okay? We really have to be eating better, and this is where it's a bit of a tricky situation for shift workers, right? Because we know that we quite not always going to be eating or making the best healthiest of food choices, given that of what we do. We might be getting caught into this fatigue trap, and it's really easy just to go for the processed stuff, but the processed foods are not good for our health. But I want to share a great quote from one of my mentors, Dr. Libby Weaver, who is a phenomenal nutritionist and biochemist here in Australia. But she put a great quote out that really stuck with me, and I think that I need to share it with everyone. Is that when your diet is full of stimulants like caffeine and refined sugar and devoid of nutrients, your body cannot make the necessary hormones for calm and to create your sleep hormones. Okay, I want to read that again. When your diet is full of stimulants like caffeine and refined sugar, hello shift worker diet, and devoid of nutrients, your body cannot make the necessary hormones for calm and to create your sleep hormones. I think we get, when we're kind of looking at wanting to improve our diet and maybe avoiding the processed food, it's usually coming from the angle of, you don't want to gain weight and you want to improve your health and well-being, which is fantastic. But we need to kind of remind ourselves, or give us that another reason to be doing that, is that because it's affecting our sleep. If our diet is mostly refined and processed food, there are minimal nutrients in those foods, and they're not going to be and they're going to prevent the body from doing what it instinctively does, is to produce certain hormones and neurotransmitters that are really necessary in instigating the body to be able to get into a process of calm and to be able to sleep from a mind and a body kind of perspective. So there is a research, and I'll actually share this after I go live. I'll share this research article with everyone that was published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine. And the research showed that that they were looking at people's sleep. So they were wanting to assess how people's sleep quality was. And they showed that diets that were low in fiber, high in saturated fats, and this was unhealthy fats we're talking about here, not the healthy fats, so processed and refined fats, plus sugar, led to poor diet. Okay, so those diets that were low in fiber, which comes about from having very little fruits and vegetables, high in saturated fat and sugar, led to poor quality sleep. So it meant that it took longer for them to fall asleep. They had very poor sleep quality, more broken sleep, intermittent awakenings, and so forth, all because their diet, because of their diet. So if that doesn't give you a good motivation to start eating a little bit better, knowing that it's going to impact on your sleep, I'm definitely hoping that it does. Again, I will share that research article with everyone. So a question that I want to put forward to everyone, and an honest for everyone to give me an honest answer, I suppose, is that how many vegetables, fruits and vegetables, are you including in your diet every day? Because our body does need this fiber, as I said, to be able to support the gut microbiome, which is the squillions of microscopic organisms that are found in our gut that are responsible for producing these neurotransmitters and hormones. So if we don't have any fiber in our diet from fruits and vegetables and whole grains and so forth, then our body is not going to be sleeping well because of that. So how many fruits and vegetables are you eating every day? Because a staggering 96% of Australians are not consuming the recommended services of 5 serves of vegetables and 2 serves of fruit a day. You know, I think in the nutrition world we are so overcomplicating things. Like, it's just getting to be, like I mentioned on the earlier shift work diet, we are really overcomplicating things. And we just need to be getting back to more common sense practices of just eating more real food, which means it does require more effort on our part. It means getting back into the kitchen and finding ways to cook for ourselves more. At the end of the day, yes, there are specific foods and so forth that have more sleep enhancing qualities about them because of their certain nutrients that they have. However, real food, we're talking about real food, and their nutrients are going to help you to sleep better. The more fruits and vegetables primarily that you're having in your diet, it's going to help you to sleep better. Now, of course, I want to put a disclaimer out there that everyone is different. Like, this is information that I'm sharing with you in all of these lives is designed to be for general education purposes only. You are your best doctor. You listen to your body and how it reacts when you eat something. If you eat a particular vegetable that I might eat and I love it, it's my favorite, and you eat it and it just doesn't kind of agree with you, well, then that's a clue that that might not be the best one for you, because we are all a little bit different. And I think it's just, we need to be starting to listen to our bodies more, being more, having that more instinctively kind of better eating behavior, which is how we've evolved as human beings. I think there's just so many diets out there again, and I touched on this last time, that we're just overcomplicating, and people are just getting so overwhelmed that they don't know what to do anymore. But if you want more tips on that, just go back and watch my first video on the shift worker diet, or there is no such thing, just quietly, there's no such thing as a shift work diet, or the perfect shift work diet in my mind. It's more about a way of eating. Again, just go back and watch that video to learn more about that. But I hope you found that helpful. As I said, I wanted to talk about this because sleep is a big passion of mine, combined with the nutrition, and I tend to now put sleep always first, because it's otherwise it's like if we do nutrition then sleep, it's like putting the cart before the horse. We need to put the horse before the cart first, because we know that when we sleep better, our nutrition is going to improve, our stress levels is going to reduce, we're going to more likely want to exercise. We just it just can be life-changing. And I know that I've had that with some of my clients, is the flow-on effect by just prioritizing their sleep and making sure that that is a big part of their life. And I'm not saying it's easy, it takes hard work, it takes dedication, it takes commitment, but again, isn't your health worth it? And I think for shift workers who are so prone to chronic health conditions for various different reasons, we need to be starting to kind of really embrace that personal responsibility on doing what we can. I personally think it's a bit of a 50% responsibility. It's 50% employer, 50% employee. Having that both, like making it more user-friendly for the staff member, but at the same time, the staff member's got to be prepared to do things as well, to take responsibility for their own health and well-being. And we know that it is a lifestyle thing. It's not like working 9 to 5. It is a very, very different ball game. So, yeah. So I know I've had a few of you on there chatting to me, so thank you all so much for joining. I don't know who else is here, or if there's other comments that I haven't seen. I do apologise if I haven't seen them. I will get to them afterwards, after I jump off this line. But thank you so much for everyone that joined me. Oh, okay, Amy, I've just read your whole thing there. Yes, it is rostered. I can't do that as I work part-time with a 1-year-old, but when I work full-time, we used to do a late then an early. Yeah, the old late early kind of situation, and I know it's everywhere, which is just crazy. Like I said, you wouldn't ask someone that works 9 to 5 to come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. So why? It just does my head in as to why we are expecting a population that's already sleep disrupted to do that. I don't know. So that's where I kind of want to bring on the doing doing what we can, focusing on the stuff that we can change as opposed to what we can't. So if there are opportunities to swap out of that sort of situation, I'd be doing it. I generally would be doing it because your health is worth it. It's, you know, it's the driver behind your whole immune system with sleep, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to jump off now. As I said, hope you found that really helpful. If anybody's got any other questions for me, please feel free to put them down below, and you know, let me know. Number 2, if you're going to catch this on the replay and so forth, it's always nice to pop in and say hi, and I will see you all soon. All right, bye.